Am I more of a Brady Cook guy or a Sam Horn guy? Plus, the basketball news flow just keeps getting more and more exciting, so let's talk about it all right now on Locked On Mizzou.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. And these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. The terms and conditions apply. And of course, we've talked a ton here about the quarterback position on Locked On Mizzou for your everydayers. And you know what? We're going to continue to do so the entire season because it is obviously that important of a spot. And I guess if you're wondering, hey, am I rooting for one of these guys over the other? Am I more of a Sam Horn guy or am I more of a Brady Cook guy? Well, you know what? So far, I don't really have to pick a side because Eli Drinkwitz has announced that both guys are certainly going to play in week one. I would say likely week two against Middle Tennessee as well, although clearly that opponent is a lot more higher quality than South Dakota. But you know what? I don't want to panic here whatsoever because, you know what? Although it's not ideal whatsoever in my perfect world, either Brady Cook or Sam Horn would have seized the job with their undeniably impressive play. But I do want to pump the brakes here a little bit and just say that, hey, this isn't a reason to panic whatsoever because, man, you listen to Brady Cook the other day. He doesn't sound like a guy who's down on himself or his performance whatsoever. In fact, he sounds very much like a confident young man who is now has a good grasp of the offense, a year of experience at the position under his belt, and obviously probably being 100% healthy after going through the season, basically 10, 11 weeks of having a messed up shoulder all season. I think he's just feeling a lot better physically as well. So ultimately, I'm just going to ride the fence here and say I'm both. Why can't it be both? Why can't I like both of these guys? Because when a guy like Brady Cook is named a captain, as he was, despite not having the starting quarterback position actually tied down here, that's really unusual and speaks to how highly Brady Cook's teammates feel about him. And you know what? That matters. It absolutely matters because for as incredible as Sam Horn's tools are, his physical tools are absolutely undeniable. It's also undeniable that Brady Cook's teammates absolutely love the guy. And again, that matters. So does all the little things, the intangible parts of football, beyond just the physical parts, the mental part, whatever you want to call it. All of that matters, I would argue, even more than the physical tools. I think there's a certain baseline, of course, of arm strength, of athleticism that you need to have at the position. But once you've reached that, and I certainly think Brady Cook has reached that, it actually is a lot more about the intangibles. That's why Chase Daniel is quite possibly, I would say, the greatest quarterback in Mizzou history. A lot of guys, an NFL Hall of Famer that Chase Daniel was compared to a lot, one of his old teammates, Drew Brees, the same thing, right? Not the greatest arm in NFL history, but he had a good enough arm, right? He was a good enough athlete and just had the ability to process information, lead the team, throw to the right guy, simply put, and throw it accurately. That's what Drew Brees was great at. That's what Chase Daniel was great at. Now, on the other hand, it sure seems like Sam Horn is coming on strong too. And to me, what all this says, again, you put those undeniable physical attributes that he has. A good runner, obviously the Major League Baseball potentially, at least draftable quality arm there. He's definitely got the arm talent to sling that football around too. Now, we just haven't seen much from the position. I haven't seen any practices live, and even the people who have been there, it's pretty apparent they haven't gotten to see that much live football either. So it just seems like, though, again, you read the tea leaves, it just seems like both guys are further along than they were at this time last year. That's the good news. So again, whoever wins this position, I'm rooting for Brady Cook as a guy. And am I being fooled by his likability here just because he is the true son who grew up wanting to play for the Tigers? I really don't think that's it, because his confidence is truly genuine. But, Horn obviously has a real shot here. How they look in these actual first two games here, I think, is obviously going to be a huge factor. But again, I genuinely don't care who starts here. I just think Missouri is in a much better place at the quarterback position than they were this time last year. And you know what? Instead of just taking my word for it, why don't we actually hear from Brady Cook himself? Asked how he felt his fall camp had gone. Well, here was Brady's answer.
Yeah, I've been really happy with how I performed in camp. Really happy with how the offense has performed. I mean, the defense has been pushing us. They've gave us great looks, and man, they're a really good defense. So I'm super happy with how I've played and how the offense has done, and I think we've really picked it up in the second half. We have some momentum right now.
So obviously Brady is pleased with his play and obviously with the play of the offensive as well, which is really encouraging. It just seems like genuine confidence here to me once again. Brady Cook just strikes me as a straight shooter, doesn't seem like a guy who's going to just tell you what you want to hear. And also, well, he's going against a pretty good Missouri defense every week too, and I thought his comments about that were pretty revealing as well.
Yeah, we're still throwing in some wrinkles. What is this, day 16, 17? We're still throwing in some wrinkles. I'm starting to get, Coach Baker's defense down a little bit. I know when the pressures are coming and all that, so I'll give him some trouble after practice every now and then. But, I think we're definitely still surprising him with some stuff.
And Brady basically confirmed a little later, by the way, something I've suspected for a while, which is Luther Burden is probably going to be a target monster this season. He's going to be getting the ball in his hands a lot from the slot position. Simply put, it's just easier to get guys from the football when, well, they're closer to the snap. Who knew, right? Not a huge revelation there, but just something I think just confirms. I think we're going to see a big year out of Luther Burden coming, statistically and just in terms of raw football important type production. And coming up, man, it really feels like Dennis Gates just has connections all over the country. And, well, this time it's leading to a 5-star visitor from the state of North Carolina coming up here next month, reportedly. So let's talk about all the exciting stuff happening with Missouri basketball. But first, I want to tell you about LinkedIn Jobs, because these days every new potential hire can really feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain you have access to the best qualified candidates on the market. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, because they help you find the right people for your team faster and for free. And really, it's so fast and so easy. All you have to do is add the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to help spread the word that you're open for business and hiring. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one for delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Again, LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks, as always, for making Locked On Mizzou your first listen every day. And for you everydayers, hey, I'm hoping for even more basketball to talk to in the future, because, man, Dennis Gates, I love you, pal. Even during football season, the teeth of it, when we should all be talking only gridiron, Dennis Gates giving us plenty to talk about, including today. The news this past weekend is that Jayden Quaintance, I believe that's how you pronounce that name, a 5-star player from Raleigh, North Carolina, 6'10", 235, going to be taking a visit to Missouri, I believe, next month. Yes, September 21st is the word for Jayden Quaintance. And I say, I believe it's Quaintance because here's a little aside here really quick. Listen, I don't have any way of knowing how to correctly pronounce some of these names. A couple people online, I got some constructive criticism from somebody who said, hey, I think you're pronouncing Armand Mimbao. I've been saying Mimbu. He said he thinks it's Mimbao. Okay, great. If that's right, then my apologies. I will definitely correct that. If it's Armand Mimbao, good to know. Unfortunately, I go over to mutigers.com. There's no pronunciation guide here. I have no idea how to pronounce this young man's name other than just guessing and taking the word of seemingly some YouTube commenter there who had good spirits in his mind there. Whereas somebody was like the 5-star player from Little Rock, who I've been calling Aaron Boateng. Well, he's going, you pronounce that wrong. You're supposed to be Locked On Mizzou. Of course, he doesn't tell me how to correctly pronounce it. But by the way, I still think it is Boateng. I looked on YouTube, and the way I've seen it pronounced is Boateng. It's not Boating, I don't think. But regardless, if I'm wrong, I'll accept the constructive criticism. But if you're just going to say I'm an idiot and not actually correct me, well, thanks for nothing, you jerk. But anyway, that was about the nicest way I could have said that. But regardless, back to Jayden Quaintance. That was a bit of a digression there. I apologize. But the point is, Jayden Quaintance, his father apparently played with Dennis Gates' brother at Kent State. So it's just amazing to me how many connections, just little 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever. Dennis Gates just has it all over the country. It's really paying dividends right now. Quaintance is an interesting prospect because he just reclassified to the 2024 class. So he just turned 16 years old just last month. So he guy that if he comes to Missouri, it won't be obviously for this season, it'll be for the following season. Well, he would certainly play 2 years of college basketball, almost certainly, unless he decides to go to the G League or something like that. The point is, because he's so young, he actually wouldn't meet the NBA's 19-year-old deadline by the time he's at the end of his freshman season. So sort of like Jonte Porter a little bit, a guy who reclassified to play with his brother Michael, skipped his senior year of high school. It looks like Jayden Quaintance is going to do the same thing here. And like Jonte Porter, unfortunately, his sophomore year, he blew out his knee, as we all remember. But Quaintance would be a 2-year guy at the very least at Missouri, it sounds like. Now, obviously, Missouri has some heavy competition here for this young man. As you might imagine, Duke is after him. North Carolina, he has a Kansas offer. I mean, every blue blood in the country is going to be interested in this guy. So who the heck knows at this point? But it's just, we haven't seen this kind of, as Gabe DeArmond pointed out at rivals.com, at powermizzou.com, I should say, we haven't seen this kind, this caliber of visitors, period, much less guys that we've gotten commitments from, but also the visitors as well since the Quinn Snyder era. So it's really impressive what Gates has done so far. And speaking of recruiting, if you've ever watched or seen highlights of any of these announcement ceremonies these days, you know the fake out has become the preferred troll of high school students throughout the country. Even Luther Burden did it when he committed to Missouri, picking up, I don't know, an Arkansas hat, some other hat, and then just tossing them aside before finally putting on the Missouri hat. They seem to like to have some fun, but it seemed like Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. really took it to another level, which seemed to upset some Missouri fans. But I'm going to give you some advice, and it's the following. Don't work yourself into a shoot. I'm going to tell you what I mean by that right after these quick words. Now, again, say what you will about this trend of trolling the fan bases who have been begging you to come to your school for months, if not years. The Luther Burden hat toss once again. Say what you will about that move. But you got to say, Luther Burden, at least he didn't do a full Taylor Swift outfit change like Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. He had the full Missouri shirt on, the hat on, the whole thing, to the point where a lot of people who were watching that live, I wasn't among them, but I just noticed a bunch of people online were going, wait a second, I turned that off. I thought he did commit to Missouri, but no, the old switcheroo, sort of like back in the WCW days. He's revealing the NWO shirt, but not nasty whiteouts. No, in this case, it's for the Alabama Crimson Tide, which I thought was pretty funny, to be honest with you. I had to be a little bit amused. I don't know, because until the last couple days, I'd strongly suspected, well, it sure seems like Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. is going to Alabama. But then you see all these writers at Rivals.com, 3 of them at least, including Gabe DeArmond, put in a future cast for Dre Kirkpatrick. That leads me to believe that his team, or maybe the man himself, was putting out some feelers there that, hey, we're going to go to Missouri, even though he probably knew all along he was going to go to Alabama, right? So I don't know. Tip of the hat, I suppose, to Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. there, getting a little bit of amusement. And again, I have to say, you got to admit, if the shoe was on the other foot, right? I think this is always important. This is an important exercise to do in just about any aspect of life. If the shoe was on the other foot and he had trolled Alabama fans like that and ultimately ended up putting on the Missouri tracksuit or whatever the heck he did, would we have been mad or would we have laughed? Would we have pointed and sort of giggled at Alabama's expense? I think we would have. So to me, the reason I said don't work yourself into a shoot, hey, I brought up professional wrestling a little bit earlier. Well, this is a professional wrestling saying here. Now, what does this mean? This is sort of backstage lingo here. In wrestling parlance, a work, well, that's anything that's part of the script, that's part of the show, if you will. Whereas a shoot, it's like, well, if a guy actually gets mad backstage and you get into an actual fight about something that was said, well, now you've worked yourself into a shoot. What I mean here is there obviously the goal of professional wrestling, hey, we're going to pretend like we hate each other and we have a real conflict here. But you know what? After it's all done, we've said some crazy stuff to each other. Backstage, we're all going to laugh about it and head on down to the next town, hopefully with a little bit more money in our pockets. That's the whole point of the business, is to make money. So let's not forget what the point is here. And with all this stuff, you know, all I'm saying is this is all a game to these kids. They're not taking it as seriously as some people online are, like, oh no, they've insulted my school and all this stuff. These kids are just having fun with this. And whether you like it or not, I think if they're not taking it that seriously, I think you're fooling yourself a little bit if you're taking it too seriously. I don't know. I just didn't lose any sleep or get any emotionally bothered by this whatsoever. If anything, I was a little bit amused. Didn't think it was the most clever thing in the world. Don't get me wrong. But hey, that's how Dre Kirkpatrick wants to get his jollies. I can't be too mad at him. Again, if the shoe was on the other foot, I would have probably laughed at the Crimson Tide's expense. So it would be very silly if I were to actually get mad when it goes against my squad. And thanks once again for making Locked On Mizzou your first listen every day. I've had a blast here today. Hopefully you have as well. And thanks for telling a friend. We are available wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube as well. So until next time, I'm John Miller, and this has been Locked On Mizzou.